Now, unstable projects like this Terrycloth burp cloth, which of course I had embroidered with Birdie. Birdie was my kitten, so I have a burp cloth for my kitten. And it's a little bit more unstable, a little bit more challenging, and so we have to treat it differently. So whenever I'm going to hoop an unstable type of fabric, so this is the size, I'm going to just check. So this is probably bigger than I'm going to embroider on that. I'm going to grab a smaller hoop, like my 80 by 80. That's a better size fit for this particular one. All right, so let me open that up, loosen it up considerably. So the first thing I have to decide with this is, am I going to hoop this fabric? And this particular Terrycloth, I'm concerned, there's two things that concern me about hooping this fabric directly. I'm concerned that it's really bulky. And I'm concerned that if I try to get it adjusted in the hoop, I might damage the knit structure. So I might actually leave marks, permanent marks on it. So I'm not going to hoop the fabric, I'm just going to hoop the stabilizer. So that's the first choice I have to make. So I'm going to go ahead and take, in this case, I'm going to take a combination of wash away and cutaway. So I like to use, again, we like to use cutaways on our knits for that long-term support, keep them looking good. But I think I'm also going to put a layer of wash away. I want to make sure I have adequate stabilizer for stitching, but I don't necessarily want huge amounts of it long-term, just a little bit. So I'm just going to choose to hoop 2 layers of that. And go ahead and hoop that up. Again, make sure it's not too tight. Actually, my stabilizer is already looking very taut, but let's just go ahead and check. So if you don't loosen it up, you can actually tear the tearaway or the wash away when you're adjusting the tension in the hoop. So we just want to make sure it's lying nice and smooth, because we want to make sure that our knit fabric doesn't move. Super important. So this particular cutaway stabilizer actually is a fusible. So I could have fused some to the back of my project, but I've chosen not to do that. I'm instead going to stick my project into my hoop. Now there's a couple different ways I can do that. So, I mean, I could have used a sticky stabilizer, obviously, but let's say I was out of sticky stabilizer. So one of the most simple tools I use a lot to stick things into projects, if they're washable projects, is, believe it or not, good old washable glue stick. One of these, of course, being purple, is kind of nice because you can actually see where you're applying it. So when you put that in your hoop, you can see what you're doing. But another type of device, sticky device I use a lot, is a temporary basting spray. And I can also, now I wouldn't use glue stick and basting spray, so you can just pretend that's not there. This has, it's fairly thick, so you don't get a lot of overspray, thank goodness, but make sure you use it in a decent ventilated area, or you will be getting a little woozy. Now, of course, you would have your centering marks. I'm just going to eyeball it for our purposes at the moment. And you just want to gently stick that down. So it really serves 2 purposes here. It not only, it's going to hold the fabric in place while it stitches, and it also helps to keep that knit surface from stretching. Now, of course, if this is a really stretchy knit, I would have spray starched it. I would have used Terryl Magic or Perfect Sew or spray starch to stiffen it before I even did this part. But it's perfectly normal for me to have a starched project, then stuck into the hoop. And then I often will take my machine and run a basting stitch around it. So I might have 3 layers of protection keeping this unstable project in the hoop. Now this is a very textured one, so I would also go over and grab a piece of my topper film, and I would put this down before I did a basting stitch. And if this is a really dense design, I might even grab another layer of my wash away and put it as a floater underneath when I stitch it. So that would be ready to go to make Birdie's little design.